So, for 25 years, I grew up listening to all of my favourite guitarists playing a Gibson Les Paul, some sort of variation of the standard. And for 25 years, it's been a dream of mine to actually own one of these guitars. But I always had a weird relationship with it because I always felt like if I bought one too early in my journey, that I would feel like I would have imposter syndrome owning one. And so when I first started playing the guitar, rather than trying to buy a Gibson Les Paul, I thought I would buy something a little bit more obtainable. And so I bought this Tokai Love Rock. And so this guitar is a Chinese version of the Tokai Love Rock. So it's not the Japanese version, the most sought after version. It's the Chinese version. And so because this is a Chinese version, I thought that it would be fun to actually figure out if the Chinese version is just as good as the real American version. I see a lot of YouTube videos online where guys are basically claiming that these Chinese guitars are are basically just as good as an American made Gibson Les Paul. I've owned this for 20 years, just over 20 years, 22 years. So I know this guitar inside out. I know its flaws. I know where its strengths are. I do not know the Gibson Les Paul. And so I thought it would be a fun video to do is just to actually go between the two of them, play some stuff, see if I believe that this Gibson Les Paul is actually worth 10 times more than this single cut Tokai. So, if you're interested in following along, if you've been thinking about, upgrading your Chinese guitar to a Gibson Les Paul, that's what we're here to find out. I've never actually played one of these plugged in. I've always dreamed of owning a Gibson Les Paul. I've played a couple in a guitar store, just sitting quietly in the corner. Never had one plugged in, uh, and so I really wanted to get one home and actually play it in my environment that I know my equipment and see if I think it's worthwhile because I think 5 or 10 minutes sitting in a guitar shop you just can't learn enough about the guitar to see if it's actually worth the investment or not. So I have 30 days to discover whether or not this Gibson Les Paul is actually worth it. So if you're in the same boat and you're wondering should you upgrade your Chinese guitar to the real American, follow along over the next 30 days. Hopefully, I'm going to decide whether or not this one's going back or it's staying with me. Or maybe I send this one back and I look for one that maybe has a little bit of a nicer top or whatever. But that's what we're hopefully going to decide by the end of the 30 days. So, anyway, let's get into it and see what these two guitars sound like side by side. Okay, so what I'm doing here then, I've got my guitar, the Tokai Love Rock, and it's basically going straight into the HX Stomp. And so we're going to use the Ventoux 2 preset. It's a pretty gritty tone, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the guitar's own settings to get a clean tone. So we'll start off with clean, and then we'll do the Tokai, see what that clean sounds like, and then jump over to the Les Paul and see what that sounds like. So straight away, the first thing I noticed here with the Tokai is how much lighter this guitar is. And just from holding on to the Les Paul here, the difference in the neck is huge. Like this feels very very thin. Uh, Nearly feels like a toy guitar. I'm not like if I'm being honest about it. Now that I've been playing this here, Gibson Les Paul Standard. So anyway, let's jump in and see what the tones are. So that was actually really interesting. So it was actually a way bigger difference than I thought that there would be there. So when it comes to the cleans, the Tokai started to crunch up at basically 2.5. There wasn't really much of a clean setting in there. You know, like the if I went any lower on the volume knob, you wouldn't even have heard the volume coming through. So like the where I had it set on the Tokai at just below the 2, that was it. Like, I couldn't go any lower because it just completely cuts off the volume. The Gibson, on the other hand, could have went a little bit lower and would have went a little bit cleaner. So at 2.5, the Tokai started to like add a little bit of crunch. At 5, that's whenever the Gibson started to do what the Tokai was doing at 2.5. So for this round, I have to give it to the Gibson. There's no doubt about it. These pickups in this here and the pots, uh, they do a hell of a job. So they do. There's so much tone there and that volume control. We're trying to do this as fairly as possible, keeping the same preset and just using the guitar's own electronics just to see the winner here. So I'm going to give the Tokai for the clean tones. I'm going to give it 3 out of 10, and I'm going to give the Gibson 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, I think in this round the Gibson is the clear winner for sure. Okay, so for this next round we're going to look at the rhythm. So the neck and the bridge is both set at volume 7s. The neck humbucker will be set, the tone will be set to 10, and the bridge pickup, the tone will be set to about 3 or 4 roughly, probably closer to 4. On both guitars it's going to be the exact same thing. So we'll start off with a Tokai again, and then we'll just play through it and see what we think. Hey, before we move on to the rhythm, if I could just ask you to take 2 seconds just to like and subscribe, it would really help the channel out a lot. That would mean a lot for me. I love making these long form videos for you, and if you want to follow along with the journey, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so what do we think after the rhythm? Well, here in the room, I don't know what you think, but here in the room, the Tokai is not very pleasant at all. I'm going to give that a 3 for the rhythm again. Uh, now, could I go into the global settings and change the EQs and, get some of that muddiness out, get some of that, sharpness of the high E, lower that down a bit, with a lot of tweaking, I'm sure, and I know that I have because I've got presets in this line 6 HX Stomp that are specifically for this guitar, this Tokai, and it takes the muddiness away in the thing. But I wanted to do a complete fair shootout, no tweaking, no nothing. This is just two guitars straight out, basically straight out of the box, the way they come, and we're just using the guitar's own electronics. We're not trying to change anything because I don't even really know what I'm doing with the EQ settings. I have to use Chat GPT and stuff to actually help me. And I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there that have no idea how to EQ sound or whatever. So this is why I want to just try and keep it as fair as possible. So we're giving the Tokai 3, and we're gonna give the Les Paul, I gotta say, 8.5 again. The clarity that I'm hearing from those pickups, and there's still so much left that they give, we're this Tokai feels like we're maxed out. It's already there, full gain. The Gibson Les Paul it's only getting warmed up. It hasn't even really started getting crunchy yet. So the Gibson Les Paul, is it any surprise the $4,000 guitar beats the $350 guitar in the rhythm section? So there we go. Let's move on to the bridge pickup and see what that sounds like. So, what do you think of that one? Here in the room, there was a huge difference in the sound. So the Tokai, very muddy, kind of heavily distorted. Even when I rolled it back, I had the tone basically at I think it was 8.5, 9, or sorry, the volume, and the tone was set to about 7. It's pretty muddy. I couldn't really get it cleaned up any. The clarity wasn't really there. The Gibson, the burst buck or two on the bridge, I am not the biggest fan of. It's leaps and bounds ahead of the Tokai's bridge pickup, but the volume was set to 7 and the tone was set to about 3. And for this particular amp model that we're using here, the Ventoux 2 in the HX Stomp, it gets a little bit ice picky if the tone is too high. So you have to back the tone away off just to kind of try and keep the levels kind of pleasant to the ear, so or the frequency. So the Tokai will give 3.5. The Gibson will probably give 8. I think is probably a fair value for the Gibson. The clarity in the Gibson is like there's a huge difference. You know, the lows aren't as muddy. The highs aren't as high pitched, or I guess they are as high pitched, but the frequency is a lot more pleasant to the ears. Uh, if I whacked on a distortion pedal, I'm betting you that Gibson will sound so much better. This is still kind of like a clean tone for the Gibson, to be honest with you. It's not heavily distorted like the way the Tokai is. So between the two guitars, there like massive difference in the sound and the bridge pickup. You know, the Gibson again, it's got so much more room. They blossom like you put a nice overdrive pedal on there, and that thing's going to shine all day long. The Tokai, you put an overdrive pedal on there, well, it's already heavily overdriven, and it's not even a crunch channel. Like, you know, it's a very mild crunch channel, I guess. So, Gibson takes the one again here. So this round might actually be the most important round out of them all, depending on what you like in your guitar. So let's start off with a Tokai. The Tokai came in at 8.6 pounds, so it's pretty light guitar. The Gibson Les Paul came in at a whopping 10.1 pounds. So if you like heavy guitars, this is the guitar for you. A lot of people loves the more heavier guitars. They think that the more width, the more sustain the guitar has. Personally, I like a little bit of a lighter guitar. That 8.6 pounds is absolutely perfect. I think. Like, I was playing this standing up yesterday for 10 minutes, and after about 10 minutes, I had to sit down. Like, my back was broke. In fairness, I'm not used to even playing standing up. I normally play seated down, so that is take that with what you will. You know, if you're used to playing a guitar standing up, maybe this might not be any trouble for you. You know, but like I never play standing up, so they carry 10.1 pounds on me when I'm standing up and trying to play. It was pretty awkward. The Tokai standing up, I've got no issue. I can play for quite a while before I feel it. You know, so let's for points. I think the fairest way to do this is the Tokai. For me personally, I like lighter guitars, so I'm gonna give the more points to the lighter guitar. So this came in at 10.1 pounds. So I think that that's how many points the Tokai should get. So the Tokai is 10.1 out of 10, and the Gibson Les Paul is going to come in at 8.6 points, because that's what that weighed in as. So, but again, it's all subjective. You might like heavier guitars. This is just kind of my take on it. So, this time the Tokai won for the weight round. Okay, so this is the last round for the points. We're going to start with the Tokai. So it's going to be basically like an overall here. So out of 10 for the last round. So let's start with a feel. I've been playing this for 20 odd years, so it feels very natural and very comfortable for me. The fretboard is fine. The frets are all actually really nice. You know, like I've never had to even change any of the frets in the 20 years I've been playing it. Uh, the pickups is the biggest downside. I never wanted to spend the money to upgrade the pickups on this because it's still got the cheaper wiring and stuff like that. You know, I always knew that that someday I would potentially own the Gibson, the real thing. Like, so that's why I never upgraded this one. So if I end up do buy a Gibson, I probably would end up modding this. They turn it into like a slide guitar for myself. Um, but if this was your first guitar, which it was my first guitar, and I imagine that the ones that they're making nowadays, are at an even higher quality than this one. The veneer is fine, the binding. It's not cream binding like the Gibson. It's kind of a wee bit more yellowy, uh, but it looks okay. It matches the pickup covers, uh, the tuning pegs. Like it blends all in together. I feel if you were a kid and you got this under the tree for Christmas, you wouldn't complain. So overall, playability, feel, it's got the '60s kind of style neck, so a little bit faster. Um, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 overall. I think that different pickups could definitely really help. Like after a few years of me actually playing the guitar, I went down a road of buying guitars, Fenders, Epiphones, Kiesels, a couple of custom Kiesels. So I've had nice guitars, so I've never actually had to actually change out the pickups in these because I always had all our guitars to replace it. It was just whenever I decided a few years ago I wanted to sell everything and actually focus on getting better at the guitar because I was spending too much money in gear and I was always looking for more gear to try and make me sound better. And instead, I decided, right, okay, well, I'm just going to sell everything and I'm just going to keep my guitar that I started the journey with and use this guitar to get better. And so I feel like that I've put in the work now and I've gotten to a stage where I can appreciate having a higher end guitar now. So, it's been a nice guitar to play for 20 years. There's not a thing wrong with it. Would I go touring with it? Probably not. No, but I don't tour. I don't play in a band. I don't even jam with people. I just sit here in this room playing jam tracks, and just lately I've started to meet a couple of guys online that we're doing some stuff together. So, for what I need, this guitar served its purpose. So, yeah, I think a 6 out of 10 is probably pretty fair, and I think that if you were to ever buy one of these, I think you'd probably be pretty happy with it as well. So, 6 out of 10 for the Tokai. So now we have the Gibson. Let's give it its final points. So playability and feel. The feel, the 50s neck. I didn't know how I would like it before I started playing it. There's a noticeable difference between the Tokai 60s neck compared to this 50s baseball bat neck. I absolutely love the baseball bat neck. It seems easier to bend. It's makes you play a little bit different, kind of a little bit slower. It nearly forces you to allow the notes just to kind of ring out. Um, the clarity of the pickups, I guess, whenever like you're strumming or like you're picking individual notes, uh, the clarity beats the Tokai hands down, which it should do because this is a $4,000 guitar and that's a $350 guitar. The fretboard, it's got this beautiful rosewood fretboard, and the fretboard, I don't even really know how to explain what I want to say about it, but it's like the fretboard works with you and not against you. So your fingers, every once in a while, I play a note on here, and it kind of like it does something underneath your fingers. It kind of glides to the next note, and I don't even know how to explain it. Maybe you guys might actually know what I'm talking about if you have a more higher end guitar. But the Tokai, I've never felt the Tokai doing what the Les Paul does underneath my fingers. And I don't even really know what it's doing. That's the crazy part about it. I just know that like sometimes when like I bend something or it's like the fretboard is just in one with my hand. Uh, it just really feels like it's just working with you and not against you. So the workmanship on the guitar, the quality control, this guitar, like I don't know, it was probably set up from the store that I rented it, but everything is like bang on. All of the frets is lovely, so they are. There's not one thing in this guitar that I can complain about, um, except for the width. It's a little bit heavy. So It's gorgeous. The cream binding, you know, the pickup covers, everything matches. I love the tuning. I love the tuning pegs here. Um, the guitar's just absolutely stunning. The top, I really like the top. When I first got it, I wasn't necessarily sold on the top, but I love now that I've seen it that I keep looking at it and I see the wood finished. You know, like you can see the kind of the wood streaks and stuff. Like, it's very pretty. If I was to spend $4,000, would I buy this one? I wouldn't buy this particular one. No. The reason why is I just think it's a little bit too heavy for me, and I am a massive fan of like a nice flamed top. So plus this color, it's a very historic color, but I like a dirty lemon. So if I buy a Les Paul, I'll be looking for like a different color and probably a flame top. So let's give this one points. I'm gonna give this out of 10 a 9.5, and the only reason why I'm knocking it down a half is probably the pickups are just a little bit ice picky on a more cleaner kind of amp setting, and the width. So it's getting knocked down 2.5 points for the ice pick bridge, and it's getting knocked down 2.5 points for the width. Again, it's all subjective. You might play this and it could be a 10 out of 10 for you, you know, or maybe you might play this and you might not even like the pickups at all. I love the neck pickup. There's lots of people that I see, the first thing they do is they buy the guitar and then just for the neck, and then they get rid of the burst buckers 1 and 2 and they like put on a different set of pickups. So pickups is all subjective to your own ear. So uh, after playing this for 5 days now, um, I can see why they're worth so much money. They're just different, and they're different in a very good way. I'm not knowledgeable enough to actually be able to sit here and explain all the ins and outs of it. But I just know after playing for 25 years, this Chinese guitar, and then playing this Gibson Les Paul for 4 days, this hands down beats this all day long. Is it worth 10 times the price? I don't think so, but there's definitely something here to make this more expensive. You know, but this guitar, this Tokai, in today's market would probably be worth maybe $700 or $800. So it wouldn't really be 10 times the price. It would probably be more like 5 or 6 times the price. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this here. The conclusion is, I guess, is that I'm probably actually going to go hunting for a Gibson Les Paul, my dream guitar, and I still have this for 30 days for another 26 days, so I'm going to enjoy this while I have it. Probably make lots of more videos on it because it's absolutely amazing to play. I want to really try and get the most out of it. And since I have it here anyway, I may as well actually just work on some of my riffs, you know, like learn some Gibson Les Paul riffs, you know, that was created with these guitars. So anyway, if you stuck around to the end, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope this video helped, and it maybe helps you make up your decision if you want to invest in one of these guitars or keep your Chinese one. So thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.